Do. We're live. We're live. Hello. I'm Amanda Call, and this is my stream on my channel. I'm going to keep inking this comic page that we've been working on for several weeks now. As you can see, I have a fair amount of inking done on it already. We're going to try to finish doing this background texturing and start inking the figures with a brush. So I have my ink here, my Winsor & Newton India ink with the little spider on the bottle. And I've got my 107 nib pen. Oh, and it's not showing me all the chat because it's being terrible. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. Hopefully my chat is working now. So yeah, we've been working on this page for like several weeks now. This is the third session of me inking it, so yeah, it's been a while. I'm going to see how close we can get it to done in tonight's hour of working. So I still have those guidelines from last time that I can kind of follow to fill in those lines. Hey, Spud, thanks for joining me. Hey, Hungry. Glad to see everybody. Sorry I wasn't able to hang out on Chaotic Goodcast last night. I do occasionally have to, like, actually spend some time drawing. So, couldn't make it last night. Hello, someone saying. Is this sound it's the sound I came here for. Oh yeah, the scritching noises. Very soothing scritching noises. Thanks for hanging out with us, someone saying. Hope everyone is having a good week. My week so far has consisted of lots of puppy cuddles, which is pretty great. My mother-in-law is on vacation, so I am helping out with watching her puppy, and that means puppy cuddles. Yeah, sure thing. I love doing this. One of the highlights of my week, getting to hang out and chat with people. They're pretty great. She's like 4.5 months old now, something like that. She's a black Labradoodle. So lots of energy. Lots of doing whatever she feels like. Although my cat is not a fan. My cat's not a fan of her. She'll come in the house and he just like no matter where he is, he should be asleep. Like he's dead asleep, and as soon as the dog enters the house, he just comes running out into the living room to like stalk and glare at her. And he has swatted at her a couple of times when she was smaller and she remembers. And so she's like, I really want to be your friend because I'm a puppy and I want to be everybody's friend. And he's just like, go ahead, I dare you. Come closer to me. I'll smack you again. And so then she just like very nervously is walking around trying to keep half an eye on him. And he's just like trying to get closer to her. He'll like lean up against me and pretend like he wants scritchins and he wants love from me. And it's like, you don't. You're faking. You just want to get closer to the dog so that you can hit her because you're mean. Because you're jealous and you're mean. Hopefully he'll get over it someday. Oh, almost done with the background on this panel. Yeah. He's got some pretty typical cat behaviors. Very possessive of his space and our attention. Like you can't have this dog in here and be paying attention to her. That's not acceptable. Okay. Cool. So there's that. Just gotta do a little bit on this sarcophagus up front here. Just to add a little bit there. trying not to get confused of like what all these lines are. What part are these little tendrily bits? Do I have any local art groups I attend? I don't. I would really like to like have some more in-person art community. Obviously the last couple of years there's not been a lot of opportunity for any kind of socialization, which seems to be changing at this point. But I live in the middle of nowhere, so I would have to probably travel a good distance before I could get to any kind of group. But it would be cool. It would be cool if I could have somewhere to actually like hang out with other artists semi-regularly. That's part of what I really enjoyed about conventions was just getting time to spend with other artists and comic and creative people. Which obviously those haven't really happened much in the last 2 years either. I used to when I lived in southern Maine. There was a gallery I would go to that would have figure drawing sessions, um, like life drawing sessions once a week. And I didn't make it every week, but I made it some weeks, and I would go and do that, and it was pretty nice. It was mostly much older people, like mostly retirees, who were there and doing it just as like a hobby. But it was fun. But that was still a pretty significant drive from where I lived at the time, so that's why I didn't make it all the time because it was a little bit of a pain to get to. One of the drawbacks of living somewhere super rural like I do. All right, we'll get some more of these shadows underneath some of these little twisty bits. Missed the discussions when I took my art courses, thinking of trying to find art groups around where I live, but not really sure where to look for people interested in comics art. Yeah, I mean, I guess one thing you could consider is if you don't like find anything like listed on social media for you, any local groups, as if you have like a comic shop near where you are, that you could always ask the owners of the comic shop if you could put up like a flyer for a meetup, or if they would be willing to host a meetup there for other people who are interested in comic art. So that's always something you could do. Assuming you have a decent comic shop. I say because my local-ish comic shop is not good. Yay, that panel's done. Okay. Last panel. Whoops. Gotta do the dots everywhere. Dotty dot dots. So I've definitely seen in comic shops like like comic reading clubs and like people offering like art lessons and that sort of thing, flyers at comic shops. So that might be a good resource. It might be a good place to start. Dot dot dots. Try to make sure I put the dots where they belong and not other places entirely. There we go. Yeah. I'm depending on where you live, it might be a little bit of a trek to get to a comic shop at all, or one that would be willing to do that. But I think that's probably a decent place to try to start anyway. Oh, I missed. I missed. Okay. Whoops. I'm gonna make that section just a little bit darker. I don't want it much darker all over. I just want certain parts a little darker. So I'm gonna go over it again. Oh, getting there. We're getting there. Oh, I saw like the greatest thing on Twitter today. Loved it so very much. It was someone had made a beginner's comic creator kit for like their nephew who was like 10, I think. Oh, it was so good. It was a whole bunch of art supplies specific to comics. Some of which are stuff that I actually like use all the time, so I thought that was pretty great. So it was like a pad of Bristol and like a pad of Bristol and a bunch of mechanical pencils and a bunch of brush pens and like microns and an Ames lettering guide. And there was also like a pre-ruled blank comic book, so it already had like panel borders laid out in different configurations and you could just kind of fill it in. And a long arm stapler for making mini comics, and a copy of Understanding Comics Naturally by Scott McCloud, and like a printout of the Wally Woods 22 panels that always work, and it was just, there were a couple other things I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was so good. It was like, oh, what an amazing way to encourage an aspiring comic creator. Just like, here's stuff, not just any stuff, but stuff that you actually will use, like that comics professionals actually use. But honestly, like a lot of that stuff is not super expensive. Like this person probably spent a fair amount of money getting all of it at once, but it isn't stuff that's like ridiculously expensive. A pack of microns is not anything like getting, like pricey oil paints or anything. Right? Isn't that amazing? But I thought that was really cool. It's like, oh, such a great idea. And someone in the comments on one of the threads where I saw it reposted said that, one of the things that they heard was they had always heard was a really good way to encourage a young artist is to just get them like a box of printer paper, because then they practice drawing a lot but don't feel bad about like wasting nice art supplies. They just draw a lot. It's a whole bunch of printer paper. And I was like, I think there's actually really something to that, because I always had, my parents would never have bought expensive art supplies. That was just not a thing that was going to happen. They would not do it. Any nice art supplies that I ever had as a kid were bought as gifts from like aunts or other extended family members. Not something my parents were going to ever do. But my dad worked in an office and he would bring home like reams of like old reports and like and be like, yeah, you could just draw on the backs of them. And we had like an endless supply of drawing paper that was literal trash. Like it was literally used paper that was gonna go in the trash. And so it did not matter. You could just draw and draw and draw and draw, and it didn't matter. You weren't wasting anything. You could mess up or draw different versions of the same thing as many times as you wanted, and you didn't ever feel like you were wasting something precious by just practicing a whole bunch. I was like, that's actually a pretty good point. I definitely ran into that when I was older and had like my first nice sketchbooks, and it was like, oh no, I don't want to ruin my nice sketchbooks by drawing something crappy in it. It's like, no, you're gonna draw lots of crappy drawings. Just keep drawing. Don't worry about it. Someone says that's what I used. My mom worked at a computer company and would bring home paper that was going to be trashed because it had test prints on the side. Yep. Yep. I have no idea what the reports were. I was too young to care at that time. Boring office stuff. I don't know. Just a little bit darker down here. More of that good scritchy noise. Oh, now that side is like way darker than this side. So we're going to have to make this side just a little bit darker because now it just looks silly. I guess that's better. And Spud said my dad was an architect, and I also got lots of scrap paper and had some nice markers. Nice. I didn't really ever have like nice markers. Generally just like either the markers that came in like the giant cheap art sets that had like, you know, the ones that would have like a dozen markers and a dozen small colored pencils and a dozen really lousy pastels and dozen really, really washed out watercolor pans. Those. I think that was that and like just regular Crayola markers. It's usually all I ever really had. All right. Yay! I did all of the background inking. That only took forever. I still haven't decided what I want to do about the background in this panel, but you know what? We're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to move on to brush inking for the last half hour here and see how far we get. Clean off my pen here. Now we're going to move on to the brush. This is the Winsor & Newton Series 7. I'm using a size 4. Nice. There's like a piece of like, I think it's like a piece of pencil shaving that was stuck on it. Where'd you pick that up? Alright, got some ink on there. Gonna kind of hone the point down a little bit on my scrap paper over here. That's what this is for. And then we will start. We've got about half an hour left. I usually keep these streams to about an hour long. At the end of an hour, I should get up and stretch and get a drink of water. You probably should too. Gotta take care of yourself. Get quiet as I concentrate on not messing up his eyeballs. And now beard. Yeah, there we go. scooting out of frame. Sorry about that. Poor Thel grabbing his head. Always getting his head knocked into things. Always having a rough go of it. Mm-hmm. All right. That panel is done. Well, maybe. I'll figure out the background eventually. Oh, I'm still so mad I got that ink splotch right in the middle of her forehead. Poor Wen, looking so distressed. They never fall in a useful spot. That's okay. That's what whiteout is for. Right. That arm ended up getting half covered by a word balloon. Oh well. Get some more ink. That was a little more than I intended to get. So hone that down a little bit. There we go. Turn the paper around to try to get the best angle for this kind of big swoop. Making the face. Still feel like I have too much ink on my brush. It's being very annoying. Definitely overloaded it. Kamaria is also looking distressed. Everybody looks distressed. Everybody's having a hard time. Alright, and then Kamaria's hair is always fun. Just big waves all over the place. There we go. So that's 2 panels down. Definitely don't want to make sure my brush is not overloaded working on these much smaller figures here, because that would be very difficult to control. I think we're in a good place now. This doesn't feel overloaded or dry, so that's good. That's what we want. Tiny little figures to be very carefully controlled. So we're in the last 10 minutes of the stream, so I'm going to do the YouTube things and remind you, I'm Amanda Call. I'm working on my webcomic, Age of Night. I'm working on this for a few weeks now, very close to it being done. You can read Age of Night at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT.com. I did also link it in the video description. Age of Night updates every Wednesday. And you can read the whole thing for free. However, if you'd like to support me making comics, you can also sign up for my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ageofnight. Patrons always get the comics 1 week early, plus they get to see other cool behind-the-scenes things. I posted a little comics storytelling composition rant blog post thing this week. That was kind of fun. You can also buy the first 3 volumes of Age of Night if you want to have everything all in one place and ready to go instead of waiting for like a lot of pages to load on the internet. There are PDF and ebook versions of Age of Night available on the One Bookshelf sites. So that's Drive-Thru RPG, Drive-Thru Fiction, and Drive-Thru Comics. You can also, of course, get the ebook and paperback at Amazon. There is a little bit of bonus material in the in each individual volume as kind of like a thank you for supporting. It's nothing like plot critical. It's just a fun little extras. Oh, what else? Also, I'm currently involved with a tabletop RPG that is currently funding on Kickstarter. The artist for that game is called Deimos Academy, which is Deimos. Published by Game Nakuri, designed and written by my friends Banana Chan and Austin Taylor. And it's like a GM-less horror RPG where you are returning to your creepy old boarding school and uncovering repressed memories and confronting the evil that is lurking there. And you get to play the game with paper dolls and coloring sheets, all of which I designed. So that's cool. It's a really fun game. It's usually very spooky and impactful, and we've had a lot of fun playtesting it. And that is currently funding on Kickstarter, so if that sounds interesting to you, you should check it out. We haven't quite reached our goal yet, but we're very close. And, it's Kickstarter. We don't reach our goal, and you don't get charged. It's fine. What else? Okay, so normally I'm here every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with this art stream here on YouTube. So if you like this, you should subscribe to the channel and like the video and all that fun stuff. I will not be here next week because we actually have a Deimos live game that we're going to be doing next week during this time slot because that was the time that could work for everybody. So I will not be here next week on Tuesday. Let me know in the comments if there's a different day or time during the week that you would like to see me, and if I can make it work, I'll try to do that instead. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same evening slot either. There's like certain times that definitely don't work for me, but there's other times that I could probably make work. This is just what I'm used to. I see a question from Spud. Do you read many comics on screens, or are you more of a paper comic person? I am much more of a paper comic person, and what was the last paper comic that you read? The last one that I read was the Junji Ito Frankenstein adaptation, which also came with a bunch of other short horror stories in the book, which was really cool. And that was a really good adaptation of Frankenstein, by the way. You should definitely check it out. If you like Junji Ito or Frankenstein, any of that, or just horror in general, it's definitely worth your time. All right, that is going to be the end of the hour. Hello, Potato. Hello, goodbye, Potato. I'm sorry it came in right at the very end. But that's going to do it for this week. Like I said, I won't be here at the regular time next week. If there's another time next week that you think might work, let me know, and I'll see what alternate time I might be able to do. And either way, I will see you all next time. Bye.